Good morning, everybody. How are you? Welcome. Okay, we're good. Audio is excellent. Fantastic. Hi. Happy Monday. Sexy Liberal is this week. My birthday is this week. I'm going to Chicago this week, which makes me incredibly happy because some of you may know this about me. I mean, if you've been watching the stream long enough, and if you're a person who watches the morning stream, you definitely know this. I'm um I'm a melancholy bastard. I have genuine melancholy tendencies. I don't get depressed. I don't like revel in sorrow in any way, but I also do not hide from my sadness, and I am very comfortable pining for things that I loved or that I love that I'm away from. Totally cool with that. I'm still in my movie sound and I'm still in the chair from yesterday because I didn't shuffle things around after last night. I was up late. We did the movie review of My Son Hunter last night. 4 hours 23 minutes is how long it took to bang on through this horseshit, and we managed to do it. And I'm proud of you guys. And those of you that were there, it was lovely. So anyways, I'm very excited to go to Chicago. It just warms my heart. Whenever I'm in Vegas, I miss LA. Whenever I'm in LA or Vegas, I miss Chicago. Whenever I'm in Chicago, I miss LA and Vegas. And whenever I'm in any of those three towns in a week, which happens sometimes, I miss the times I was in New York and some places in Beijing and Paris. I miss Edinburgh. Obviously, parts of London. And I'm melancholy. This just so you get to know who I am as a human being. I'm melancholy about shit I haven't experienced yet. I get kind of like emotional at the idea of things I'm gonna do that I know are gonna be awesome, and I know I'm gonna miss it afterwards. It's so weird, and I'm happy to be that way because it really does. Thank you, Rev. Appreciate that. The reason is that I'm happy that way is because it means that I am very comfortable with attachment. And I think in our society there's a fear of attachment. People will talk about, like, to some degree, like social anxiety or even levels of paranoia on an emotional level. I think there's a bunch of people who are, quite frankly, low bar paranoids. That's true, Erica. I am an artist, and maybe that's it's an artistic trait. It could be. But I am madly in love with the human race, and I often, you will know, and sometimes notice, I am often emotionally panicked by the glory of life. I just see beautiful and sweet things and advances and goodness and that kind of stuff, and I'm just a mess. That's why the only thing that will, like, if I'm on the edge of tears in my life, the worst thing somebody can do is say something nice or supportive to me, because I'll just go, see, the world is worth living in. Like, that's what'll trigger me to cry, right? More than, like, I don't cry out of anger or disappointment or any of those things. I go into like a fix-it emotion for that, personally. And maybe that's why I have never experienced depression. Because early on, I had this analogy when I was a kid, in that I came up with in my own. It was funny that I came up with it when I was probably 11 or 12, because I had a relative who had done themselves in, and they had a nicer house than me by far. They lived in town. They had a pool table in their basement. Who the fuck has that, right? And I was like, how do you pass up on this life? I'm dragging my ass. We got one general store in our town, and we've had to walk to church several times because the car doesn't work. So you're going to pass up on life when you've got a pool table in your basement stuff? And there's a myriad of other reasons. This is a child's understanding of the circumstance, so don't be too judgmental about how I reacted to it. I was fucking 11. But what I came away with, and that has really stuck with me, is that there are many people, like emotions represented by different people sort of sitting at a dinner table in your head. They're all sitting around, and every time you think it's dinner time, and whoever you feed gets the fattest or the strongest, takes up the most space, or has the most power. And so if you spend time feeding your sad and broken thoughts, the sad and broken thought monster in your head will he'll overpower everyone. He's got more nutrition and more strength than your hope. If you don't feed your hope, it will starve. And so I made a decision as a kid to just keep an eye on who I was feeding with my thoughts, if that makes sense. And it's been I have to say, it's a strategy that I have intentionally used my whole life since that time, and it has been incredibly effective. Never think for a second, and I know a lot of you know this anyways, but never think that I haven't gone through some awful shit in my life, on par with most. And I would never, I would never presume to have experienced the worst of the worst. And it's why, people like Joey Jones, who I have incredible political disagreements with, and I find a lot of his political arguments trite and whatnot. The man lost both of his legs in Afghanistan, or in Iraq, beg your pardon. And to that point, he gets up every day and puts prosthetics on his blistered knees. And so I have to factor that into my thoughts when I'm talking to this person. I have to at least respect the fence he has to climb, over, just to be almost normal every single day, right? So it's crucial. It's just I feel like in those situations, somebody in that position, the broken, the angry, the sadness monster in their head is already overfed by their genuine circumstance. Their disability or their whatever's happened to them in their lives, whether it's chronic pain or something like that, is always just shoveling food into the misery monster in their head all the fucking time. And so I feel like a level of responsibility is part of the balancing act against that, to feed the other people. And if I'm going to bring snacks to this conversation, which is us discussing things, whenever you're thinking, you're also incorporating what the other person is saying, subtle inferences you get from their behavior or your own assumptions about their behavior. You're going to get those kind of cues from them. And you're going to decide, because understand, everyone decides before they feel. Okay? If it's not, if you're not a baby and it's you're angry or sad because you're hungry and you're not sure who will feed you, you decide what things mean before you feel the way you feel about them. And people will push back on this all the fucking time, but it's not even a question. And the easiest example I give is if somebody yells at you in traffic, "Fuck you, you jerk," and you think you might have done wrong in traffic, you will take it differently than if you think they did wrong in traffic. You have decided how you feel about this. Does that make sense? Because it's your actions that are predicated on how you are emotionally responding to this. If your friend calls you a prick versus a stranger on the street yelling across the street, or an ex, or your parents, or your child, it's different, right? Because you have already decided what that would mean to you. And so people who are convinced either by habit or their friends or their shrink or strangers or life that your emotions have you by the short and curlies all the time and you have no part to play in them are flat out wrong. because you make a decision how you're going to hear things all day, and that is going to play into your experience. And your experience is going to feed whatever that monster is in your head that's the biggest and fattest at the table, who has the most power. And if you have a giant table where one particular emotion is beating the shit out of everyone else and overwhelming, and it's not helping you, because I would argue I have intentionally overfed my hope monster over the years because I'm in an industry where hopelessness is weaponized against you. What's the single thing you hear about people looking for a career in acting or music or anything, but specifically acting? Don't you get worried about the fear of rejection? Don't you get worried about all the rejection? Don't you hear about all the rejection? Okay, my feeling has always been, and part of this is intentional thought on my part as a psychological defense, but also it's true. It's just materially true, is that there are tens of thousands of moving parts in any project as it goes forward. In the decision making of the person that's sitting in the casting office or the director or who else they have offers to or any of this other thing. And almost all but 3 of them are out of your control. And if all 3 of the ones in your control, if you fucking nail them, you're perfect at those 3 things that are inside your control. The number of ones outside of them are overwhelming. It's just, if you don't get the part or whatever, you couldn't even sift through and do an autopsy of what happens and figure out why it didn't work out at all. I mean, just genuinely, like, as an outsider, you couldn't figure it out, much less assuming it's you. Assuming it must be something that's you. Now, if there's elements where it could be you, and you have this haunting feeling that it might have been something, or you could have done something a little better, or you're aware that you didn't quite nail it, or you didn't feel on your game, then you do the little work all the time to make sure that the next time you're in that room, you can call up all your talents and for that job interview, because that's what it is. But a lot of people in the arts, especially, because you're already walking a fucking plank emotionally, I guess, showing your art to the world for a lot of people. There's also a mix of tremendous ego in this. It must be about me because I'm amazing. I'm amazing. That's why I left Toledo and came to Los Angeles, because everybody in Toledo thought I was amazing, and LA will think I'm amazing just like the people in Toledo. And there's a lot more amazing people out there, but I'm amazing even among the amazing people, and therefore. And then you mix that ego, which may be real or a defense mechanism. That's a debatable thing per person. There's no flat marker on it. And then you mix that with the myriad of reasons that are not only out of your control, but out of sight as to why you didn't get something or why something didn't work out. Well, before you even have the point where you can choose not to do something, which is a whole other experience, because at that point, you're in the rejection business. I have turned down probably since Lab Rats about 6 decent projects, like large size things, but that I don't want to be involved in because I either don't agree with them, or they would be a sidestep, or it would take away what control I have over my stand-up career in the future or whatever. And part of it was like COVID, and I'm not going to lock into a 7-year contract on a show that's going to be shot in a closet because they came up with it during COVID or something like that. There's a lot of reasons, but I've said no to those things. I said no to things for years between Queer as Folk and Lab Rats. I also auditioned for things. So there was a mix of the experience. So I was not only in the receiving end of supposedly that rejection, but I was also in the doling out of it. And it had nowhere in it, unless it was specifically an issue I had with if something was like, there was one project where I was like, this is just awful. This is just mean-spirited and soft pedal racism disguised as being liberal or progressive. It's like, it was like artificial woke, essentially, which is it was just subtly mean. None of it was funny. And I was like, okay, yeah, I'm not doing that. My manager at the time did not understand. He's like, what's the problem? It's going to be on this network. It looks like it's pretty good. It never went, by the way, just for the record. And I don't know. It's because, again, I don't know if it's because they did it and everybody watched it and it like took a shit, or if they never made it because a lot of other people like me read it and went, what the fuck is this? This is a project that is pretending to be a friend that's actually an enemy, and that's worse than doing an enemy project, that kind of stuff. So I turned down the part of Hunter and My Son Hunter. No, I'm good. But anyways, that was, I would think, the only example of where the work itself was wanting. The rest of it was a bunch of different stuff. This is not the kind of character I want to play. This is not the kind of stuff. So this is just something to consider when you're online, because one of the things that I pointed out this morning on Twitter when I was just kind of up because the cats walked on my junk and I can't go back to sleep after that, was the idea that that the Russians specifically have been weaponizing. There's a new report came out from Bot Sentinel and others that points to the fact that that the Russians decided a long time ago it was way cheaper than attacking America was let America destroy itself. And the way they do it, it was very specific and sort of an autopilot kind of thing. You just wind us up and we'll tear ourselves to pieces is the thing. And I posted a video of Putin this morning talking about like Ukrainian grain is not even theirs, and the U.S. bought it a long time ago, and we're really fighting about their grain, which we're going to sell to Europe because we're the ones starving at it. Like, it's just silly. Like, the whole argument's garbage. And that the Europeans are being colonized by America, who's using Ukrainian oil or Ukrainian grain to, like, it's just fucking stupid. Anyways, the point is that the reaction to it when I posted it from some people was, oh my God, he's nuts, or he's delusional, or oh my God, how can he believe this? Let me be abundantly clear. He does not. He doesn't believe this at all. What he does, and this is an interesting technique to pay attention to because he's not the only one who does it. He's just the main dude who's weaponized it against our country and several others, namely Germany being the second one, is you've already made a decision about how you'll feel about all kinds of things. Environmental issues, justice, racial justice, like true events like George Floyd, and stuff that, like, real events like the moon landing that you could just pepper doubt through. So, and what they do is they don't make themselves a solid counter argument and go, we will stake our flag on this side, and this is how the Americans do it, and this is how we do it. What they do is they introduce two attack formations. One is you create a sock puppet accounts on both sides of the issue that wind up the most dedicated, the most emotionally invested people on either side, so that those people will think there's a much bigger war happening on the other side, and therefore they will bring armament emotionally, and with it, their own confirmation bias about this person's going to say this, and when they say this, it means this. And since what they say, even if they say it doesn't, I know it does, it will emotionally hit me like this, and therefore I will have a visceral reaction. That visceral reaction will trigger a bigger wind up, and off it goes. And they do it on both pillars of the argument, on the most radical ends of it. Okay? The other part is that that doesn't work forever. Okay? There's too many sensible people in the world. I know the idea in general that you've been fed for a long time is that Americans are stupid or Europeans are stupid or that because of Brexit, the Londoners are stupid or Brits are stupid or whatever the fuck. You've been basically bullshitted into the massive, most people are dumb. If you hear that, most people are dumb thing, that's not an organic statement. It's been pushed for a long time. Most people aren't. And while they might emotionally have a quick reaction to something that they have their own confirmation bias about that will lead them down a path, they won't go down it for long because they got shit to do. They got, humanity is not stupid, Sven. If humanity is stupid, we would have disappeared 100,000 years ago. Sorry, we're not. So, thank you. So, when it comes to those folks, the vast majority of people in what you would call like the valley of humanity, the people who are, they think about politics or they think about, even if they care deeply, even the dyed-in-the-wool Democrats, dyed-in-the-wool Republicans, they're also working people. They're also, they've got a myriad of other goals. They're into CrossFit, or they fucking build ships in bottles, or they're trying to learn the guitar, or they want to learn multiple languages, or trying to get a degree, or they want to go back to school, or they have to do continuing education for their job. They have swampy, overwhelming lives with real detail. Children, grandparents, parents that are aging, their own medical needs. There's a lot going on, okay? Those people are hard to pillarize. Humans are not a blight, Kimchi. That's ridiculous. If they are, then I don't know why you're complaining about the slaughter of children or the death of immigrants. Because at that point, you're saying they're fleas and they're all equal, so it doesn't matter. No, humans aren't a blight. We have worth and beauty, and we make mistakes, and other animals tear their own to pieces, and chimpanzees eat living animals while they scream. Get over yourself. Humans are like that. Those kind of statements are, by the way, have been bored into your skull for years, and they're bullshit. I'm just saying. So, but the vast majority of people in this center, I will always scold that kind of thought. I just think it's fucking awful. That's participating in your own illness. So, but anyways, the vast majority of these folks in there refuse to take care of our climate. Katie, I'll talk to that in a second. Vast majority of the people in the middle, while near the edges of the fringe polar groups as far as ideology, they will spike up. They will also get busy because the same people that have that mentality who aren't full radical are also highly driven or highly focused. And so you can weaponize that focus in a radical and make them think about nothing but that all the time. But a person just shy of that will actually be a business person or form an NGO, or they'll, along with their job, they'll also be really dedicated to the PTA or something like that. Okay. There's a lot of those folks. And then there's a vast majority in the center who just are so overwhelmed with life, they have a hard time keeping up with even the rudimentary details of it. Those people you cannot engage. And if you try, the thing that stops them is confusion. There's so much stuff out. I don't know. There's so many. I don't know. If there's more than three sides to an argument, I don't know if I can. Okay. And that's a well-known fact. That's just psychologically, that's how a large number of people are. It's not their fault. It's not even a fault. It points to they have a level of dedication to them and theirs and their own families and their own lives and stuff in a very normal way. The expectation that they should be something different is someone else's expectation, not their own. But when you try to introduce them to something they should care about, like climate change or gun, even Second Amendment purists, it's the same problem by both polar opposites, okay? The same issue is had by both polar sides, is there's a counter argument. And the person will hear the counter argument, and if they're not fully convinced that one side is the clear winner, they'll just go back to what they were doing, okay? And that group, the way you weaponize them, because you can't polarize them against each other, and you can't stop them, per se, from voting at all just by making them angry, the way you do it is by introducing too many arguments. you flood it, and this is what like Steve Bannon would call flooding the zone with bullshit. You introduce cul-de-sac arguments that will get the chattering class bugging around with it for a little while, and it'll run a news cycle for 3 days, and then it'll go away. And by the time it's settled, there's another one and another one and another one. And it's not like those are settled arguments. They were just chit-chatted about for a time, and then they've been put on the back burner. And after a while, it becomes, a bee flying around your face is scary and requires attention. But a buzzing hive just making a noise, if you don't know what it is, if it's just around the corner, is just a hum. You don't even recognize it as the threat of it. It's just there. It just becomes background noise. And so many of the, where the radical arguments will become the ones that are fought about the most. The cul-de-sac arguments are sort of the unspoken of threat that shows up a lot. Now, one of the areas that shows up a lot in sort of lefty circles is promises that can't be kept. The idea, the most recent one I would argue, is that Biden, with a stroke of a pen, could eliminate all student debt. Like, you actually heard people, adult human beings, say that phrase multiple times. And it was like knocked up like a volleyball by a bunch of people. It's materially false. And when you address that it's materially false, and that not only is it materially false, you want it to be false, because if a president could do that with one kind of debt, another president could do it with another kind of debt. And oh my God, how fucked up would that be? Because if you don't think George Bush would have written off all of Boeing's debt, or anything like Boeing owes us as far as technology, they can just, we'll just write off their debt ahead of time. So we'll pay them for any debts they accrue selling us military hardware before we even ask for it. Like, it's so stupid. Like, the extrapolated slippery slope of that is just dumb. You need Congress and the Senate involved. There's reason why we have checks and balances, reason why we have, a decentralized structure of power in the country. It's why it's good, right? Yeah, imagine, yeah, exactly. So a bank bailout. If do you think Hank Paulson would have been sweating if George Bush could have just written a bill without the help of Congress to give back the banks all the money they lost in credit default swaps? You out of your fucking mind? Because it'd be good for the economy. And a lot of people are struggling. And a lot of homeowners are going to lose their houses. It's just silly. All right. I'm shuddery. That's strange. I see that. Hold on. Let me jump in. I'm going to grab another thing real quick. It's like slow, and that's very strange. Something, I know what it is. Hold on. I think I know what it is. Take this out. I'm going to take here. I'm going to go back and look at something. Yeah, see, I'm only using, there we go. That dropped down a little bit. We'll see if it opens up. Give me 1 second. I'm going to switch to this. And then back to this. Oh, it is operating very slow right now. That's interesting. Hold on. I know what it is. I figured it out. Hold on. Yeah. Give it a second. It's getting hot in here. So I'm going to, because I have a bunch of stuff still open, and normally that's okay, but in this particular case, yeah, there we go. Now we're coming back. Is there a Windows update? There probably is, isn't there? It's probably a software update, but I think it's hot in here in the room because the morning sun comes through on this side for whatever reason. Today it's particularly warm, so I was fine in the beginning. Yeah, the CPU was overheating. I think so. Yes. So all right, where were we? There you go. All right. I was being attacked because I was making too much sense. By the way, if you like the morning shows, please give a thumbs up, like, and subscribe. You can grab clips of the show on Twitch and share it out. You can do the same thing on YouTube, I think. God help me. Yeah, so there you go. Now, the reason I bring this up is because I love, again, the reason I'm a melancholy son of a bitch is I recognize that empathy especially is one of your most crucial emotions. It is one of the purest and most important emotions I think a human being can have. It is right up there with love, and it is a form of externalized love that you give to your fellow man and to strangers in a way that you can't with your more personal emotions, right? It is a generalized love for anyone who is in harm's way or in a circumstance. And because it is so important, and because it has so much value, and because it is so ethically important to your existence as a human being, you can never allow it to be weaponized against you. You do not let anyone take hold of your empathy and misdirect it or overuse it so that you eventually become numb, because that's what they've been doing. That's what since 2016, the overt stuff is over, the covert stuff is on, and what you're going to see, commercials do it all the time in a soft sense. So the psychology is well known to a lot of people. Make people, it's choose your phone company because look at this grandmother getting a FaceTime call from her grandkid, right? That's it. There's a sweetness to it. You empathize with somebody who'd want to call, and therefore you'd want to see him with the clearest picture, and that's why you'll choose our service. Like, that's been around for a long time. You understand how that works. Okay. It is not that difficult then to understand how the nefarious would use the exact same concept to weaponize you, to turn your good emotions bad. And if you don't think they can be, you are the perfect target for it. So be on guard against that. And any trait that you think is beautiful in a human being that you either have yourself or you recognize you used to have or you like to have or you want to have, feed them and guard them with your life, because the external factors are always going after those emotions. They're into the lesson. I just felt like saying that this morning because we were watching this thing. Now let's get to the trends. I think what I said, I almost broke the internet, folks. Here we go. Boink. Where we go? This guy right here. Okay. So this is the big, since we're in the morning show, we'll do this. All right. Queen Elizabeth is being driven all over town. She's been outside the castle more since she died than she had been in the years previous. It's here's the thing. There's a lot of coverage of this, so I won't go into much of it. Again, I think monarchies are ridiculous, but if England's going to have one, then go for it. All the pomp, all the circumstance. Stop screwing around. Don't go half measures. Don't try to drive either. If you're going to get rid of the monarchy, get rid of it. But if you're going to have it, don't pretend there should be a pared down monarchy. Are you out of your mind? That's like saying, I'm glad we have, David Lee Roth, but can't he wear a suit? You know what I mean? Shut the fuck up. If you're going to go up to the bell, ring the bell. If you're going to keep the monarchy, I want jewels and a scepter. I want a crown. I want a person to hear ye, and I want everything written on a fucking scroll. Stop it. And this is from someone who is hoping that, and I think a family member is getting from me, that I get that Lord title thing you can get from Scotland, so that I will be Lord HAL SPARKS. Yes. So, yeah, everywhere. I would say, though, that if you're going to stream down something, I think the The guys who stand outside of Buckingham Palace, I think you can move past the "hey, fur is fancy" thing and give them modern helmets that are the same, that are that big, but that are not furry, therefore hot, or at least have a cooling system in them with a little. I'm just work with me. I'm spitballing here. The Buckingham Palace guards. The hat's very big. Most of it's empty space. I'm thinking solar panel on the top, running a small refrigeration device with a fan. And it's got two little ventilation shafts that go down the sides of it and come out just past the ears. Right? How do they, it's 2022, motherfucker. How do they not have that? You're welcome. So saith the Duke of Sparks. Mm-hmm. And look, people put that kind of technology in baseball caps. The hats have cooling suit properties like the athletes wear. Yeah, well, I hope so. But I'm even just like dry ice packs. What is this? 1985. So there you go. I'm saying, yeah, 3D printed. It's not a bad idea. And then they should also have like a version of them that is either like carbon fiber or something like that has a modern design to it. Still the same shape, but they're carbon fiber hats that they wear during the day that have that ventilation on them. And then at night, they wear the fur hats. When it's cool, they wear the fur hats. Again, they wear the fur, but they're synthetic. They used to be fur, but now they're synthetic. It's the same thing, though. It's still going to trap the heat the same way. If anything, the plastic version of the fake fur is going to trap more heat. So their lineage speaks to being a lord, and they plant a tree in your name. Yeah, yes, that's right. TH showed live. That's what I want to do. Not supposed to lock your knees. It's a little hard when you've been standing there a long time. I mean, you got to be ready for action. The reason they don't want you to lock your knees is because you're actually an active guard. Like their guns aren't empty. That's why you can't touch them, or they'll fuck you up. Because they are, while they're there for show, they're also there for real. And yeah, the coffin was 500 pounds, and she was only 98 of it. Anyways, so that's my addition. Also, I'm just going to say the redcoats thing, as an American, makes me a little agitated. That's all. Mm-hmm. The coffin is lead. Great. Is it full of more Mar-a-Lago documents? I don't trust any. Was she really that afraid of Superman seeing her underwear? I mean, I had that fear for a while. I understand. So, yeah. Anyways. Millions missing. Okay. Millions missing. Here we go. Still sick, still fighting. Happening at White House demanding Biden declare long COVID a national emergency. Millions missing. Still sick, still fighting. This is me. CFS looks like this. Today, millions missing. Protests in D.C. less than 24 hours after Biden declared the pandemic over. There appears to be no media coverage. Yeah, by the way, him declaring the pandemic being over doesn't mean you don't treat people who experienced it. That's not the same thing. I mean, it really isn't. Like, I get where these people are going, and we need funding, and there is funding for long COVID, and there's a lot of, the NIH especially is doing a lot of studies on it. But it's, declaring it over does not mean, I'm standing in solidarity with those protesting on GC, long COVID, MECFS, millions missing, me, okay. No treatment, no peace. We won't ever cease. Too sick to chant, funding now. No treatment, no peace. like I appreciate what these folks are going through and what they need to do. I think the anger is misguided, but if it results in people paying attention, cool. There is a big bunch of folks related to some of these charities that are I'm not getting vaxxed because, and then there are people who can't that are mixed in with that. So again, this would be the hashtag millions missing will be one of those things that I would like to see the boosting trends on. I don't care about Dancing with the Stars. Andrea Mitchell drives everyone crazy. What's wrong with Andrea Mitchell? Not even she's doing now, hosting Queen's funeral on MSNBC. Just rambles. Oh yeah, I mean, again, this is there's a mix of both ageism and a lot of people dealing with the fact that her husband is Alan Greenspan, so her being a news anchor in the first place is always hinky in that regard. That's terrible. Brooklyn Devine. Yeah, I mean, I like the coverage of this. By the way, there's a strategy to the Queen's funeral stuff being on besides the fact that people are interested and they want to sell it. By the way, that it sells commercial advertising and everybody does want to watch it, and therefore advertisers are yelling more coverage for this. There's another reason for it, which is it is in the face of Russia's collapse and China's collapse and the Ukraine war and other stuff is fiercely normal. It's like it's the reason why people, even poor people, used to get dressed up for New Year's in the United States, especially in the beginning of the Industrial Revolution. It was so tough, but people would just put on, or you put on your Sunday best. There's a reason Sunday best is not just something that's like, let's show off my fancy hat at church, which is what it has become sort of the meme about it. It also is an act of, it's a statement of hope. The world will continue on. And so I'm going to get dressed up and be proper. I'm going to go do something nice. I'm going to go out into the world not looking like shit or in my work clothes with the idea that not only is the world going to carry on, but I'm not just that one thing all the time. I'm not just the work that I do. I'm not just the fact that I'm, the plumber in town and I'm under everybody's fucking sink with my butt crack showing. On Sunday, I can put on a nice sweater and a tie and I look all right. And that it's not just to show off. Like, people have gotten so kind of Instagram about this shit, but there's a reason why all societies come up at some point with some similar act is beyond all the metaphysical reasons that you might believe it's important. There's a material reason why it's psychologically important as a steadying factor. Think of it as the same reason the Catholic Church has confession. These things, we had chaos and fuck it for a long time. Everybody's like, we don't need this shit anymore. Yeah, we do. We have not outgrown the need for, social training wheels. And if you don't believe me, then why are you arguing for tighter gun regulations? Okay. So I would argue this sometime if you're watching and you have the means and wherewithal and the circumstance and you're comfortable doing it or whatever your version of this is, get dressed up. Go do something where you got to get dressed up. Even if it's like, if you don't go to church regularly, but you have a relative that does and they ask you to go on, Easter or some shit like that or Christmas, go with them. Just put on a tie, for God's sake. If you're a guy and you're a good person, consider becoming a Mason. It's good. You dress up once a month. It's important. Get your shit together. This is the whole purpose of Masonry, is that men can be awful unless they have some sort of social training wheels. That's the essence of it. I got news for you. For all this like Illuminati horse shit that everybody talks about Masonry, you can track the sort of the lack of social cohesion in the United States in a lot of ways to people going after Masonry as being this evil organization which is just predicated on, look, men are particularly apt to be awful unless other men check them all the time. Unless they have to show up and be a decent fucking person in front of other men on some regularity. Yeah. Oh, thanks, Evelyn. For those of you that don't know, I'm a Freemason. And I became a Freemason for that very reason. The whole purpose is make good men better. You can't make bad men good, but you can make good men better. And also, you in making good men better, you can keep good men from going bad. That's the purpose. And by the way, the attacks on Masonry are not accidental either. They are specifically put out and furthered by dictatorships like Russia, like China, where it is illegal. By the way, you look to the states where you're not allowed to be a Mason. Because, why? Because we're a democracy and everybody's on the level. That's where that phrase comes from. All the members are equal, and it's a democracy. They hate that shit. So, yeah, and no one will ever ask you to be a Mason. If they do, they're a liar. So if you want to be one, ask one. There you go. There's my pitch. But you can't make bad men good. Well, that's sad, but probably true. Yeah. Well, no. I mean, it's not our responsibility to make bad men good. Bad men can make themselves good, and then they can join Masonry and become better. And then there's a stack of life, family, work, Masonry. That's how it works. The most important thing is your family. The next thing is your work, your job, whatever you do to support your family and yourself and your community. And then Masonry. That's the effort you put into what you do in life. Just saying. It's not that women can't be. It's not for women. Women don't need it. Women do not need that. It's the simplest example is that women were born knowing how to swim and men need water wings. It's not exclusive because women aren't allowed in. It's exclusive because women don't need it. Women are, in many ways, matured by life. Your own fertility, birth, and menopause cycle make you more aware of the mortal limits of your life and the decisions you make. And that's one of the reasons why women traditionally, and this is, speaking broad terms here, are, mature faster than men and why they maintain that maturity. Whereas a man can be equally immature at 19 as he is when he's 70, because we can make kids until we die, but we don't have to take care of them. So it requires cultivation. Does that make sense? Default greatness. No, you have your own problems, but it's not. It won't be fixed that way. Order of Eastern Stars is different, and that has to do with the metaphysical aspect of Masonry, and women can become Eastern Stars, just another group. Your fellow traveler, like me, Pope Clements, he said it was ascending to be amazing. Hitler did not like Masonry because it was against the United States and secret society, suspicious to most dictators. Even though Napoleon Bonaparte was a continental Mason, he was the one that brought Egyptian motifs to Masonry. True, but it's also, there is no America without Masonry, because it was Ben Franklin going to a French lodge and getting Lafayette to support us in the Revolutionary War against the British, or we wouldn't exist. Without that brotherhood. Wouldn't happen. That's why there's a Fayette County or a Lafayette Square almost everywhere in the fucking country. There you go. Anyways, side conversation. Good one, worth having. Ezra Miller's Messiah Delusions, Inside Flashes, Dark Spiral. Okay, this has been very weird and gross. This is sort of the when money meets Q level psychopathy. I mean, we've had a bunch of these folks for a long time. And this dude's been, accused of grooming teenagers and all kinds of shit. Adam Levine was singing with, I think this was, I did a, hold on. And I don't know, it's related to something else. Okay, don't care. Church Girl. Oh dear. Patches walk back on stances they held so firmly years ago, introduced a find a personal ways we gotta focus on that. They shouldn't become a surprise to anybody. The Anglican Church literally created because the king wanted a divorce. Oh, this is the British stuff. I don't know, but is this a song called Church Girl? Is that what it is? Okay, never mind. Blah blah blah. Wreath placed on Elizabeth II's casket has flowers from her 1947 wedding. Aw. See what I mean? Like, if you're gonna king and queen, do king and queen shit. Kyle Trump. Yeah, this is related to the finger pointing business. This nonsense. Can I point out that while everybody was freaking out about this, and there's a reason that this is creepy. See these folks? The Blacks for Trump, they're there again. It's the same shitty, like, idiots that are there. These people were coming and going. They didn't care. Most of them didn't do it. The people on the side didn't do it. The people directly in front of them did it, but largely because they wanted to, like, the center is full of the QAnons. These are the very same people, by the way, that when he introduced Dr. Oz, turned their back. So, yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of these comparisons being made. It's almost like Nazis with ED, right? No, the Mastriano in this clip, that's not Mastriano, by the way. That's Lanny Walnuts, everybody. Remember Lanny Walnuts? Yeah, he gets them to do this thing, although they do their open hand, and they do like a karate chop, like they do an Indian chop. It's just, I mean, they are trying fucking everything. It's not working. Again, this is, are there concerns if these people ended up motivating voters and did something? Yeah, they already did that though, early on in Trump. The damage they did with Trump has been done. These folks, half of them aren't going to fucking vote. Most of them aren't from the fucking state. Half of these assholes like Lanny Walnuts and are there for that reason, but aren't gonna vote. Again, are the parallels there? Yeah. Am I worried? No. This is strip mall mega church bullshit. What? The one.
Into his cognitive.
Hold on. Hold on. Let me punch this in real quick. I've got to plug myself in to be able to hear this. Because I unplugged myself when I went. Okay. So, wait, where is he? Here we go. Where'd it go? This is somebody saying he wanted the generals to snap to attention like they did when they saw Kim Jong-un.
When you have your staff taking the Fifth Amendment, taking the Fifth, so they're not prosecuted. When you have the man that set up the illegal server taking the Fifth, I think it's disgraceful. Fifth Amendment. Bomb.
Bomb. Boom. Bang. Boing.
Worse. It would never.
Yeah, he plays that. By the way, this is the song playing in the background is a like karaoke knockoff of the Q song where we go one, where we go all, and it's the song. This version of it's called Mirrors.
And it will only get worse.
It's gonna be terrible. We'll do this whole thing tonight.
It would never have happened with me as your commander-in-chief.
Yeah, it would have. Well, the Ukrainian rout wouldn't have happened. The attack would have happened. They were counting on doing it as soon, like right before he was signed in, and like, I'm too busy getting taking the oath. We'll see what they do in a couple of months, and then it'd be too late. They would have taken Kiev.
And for 4 long years, it didn't happen.
Well, I mean, these kind of things take a lot of preparation. It doesn't show that they were preparing because they're a bunch of fuck-ups. But why do you think they backed you in the first place?
China with Taiwan is next.
Is next. Now, I'm going to turn... Oh, we're going to do this too. I'm not going to watch this because we're going to do this later on today, if that's okay. The John Voight interview, that aired on Newsmax yesterday. So I'm not even going to look. The Diary from Hell. Boy crazy, hypersexualized at a young age. I remember somewhat being sexualized with, quote, a family member. I remember having sex with friends at a young age. Showers with my dad, probably not appropriate. Right? Yeah, this is the page from the alleged diary. So here's how it works. You want to know how this works? Can I tell you guys how this works? Okay, here's how it works. I steal your notebook. And in it, you have some very personal things you've written. Stuff you'd rather not people parse through. Nothing illegal, but very personal about yourself. And I write extra pages in it. You know, writing similar to your writing, but it doesn't even have to be that close. But close enough. And to deny that part, you have to admit everything else, and you have to open the entire book up to everyone. So you have a choice. You can stiff-arm the whole thing and let everybody assume that all of it's real, sort of gish-gallop through your life. Or you can just ignore the whole thing, and they're going to do that anyways, I guess. Or you can admit that parts of it are real and then have to spend months talking about any real-life trauma you had on your own. That's how they do it. I mean, how do you think like Rudy Giuliani got the fucking hard drive from when he was in Ukraine? Again, cost him $5 million. They were only selling it for $3 million. Let's see. Wait a minute. Only Biden is trending all of a sudden? Only Biden would. Okay. Who gets things done? Only Biden. Okay, so this is a... only Biden gets to ride in the motor, gets his own drive. Yeah, gets to use the Beast. Everybody else has to take the bus. Yeah, this was pretty cool. He was at the Detroit Auto Show trying out all the electric cars. Man got loud cautions. He tried to open the door for the President Biden. Only Secret Service can open it. No. Yeah, don't touch the door, dude. It's it's British rules, so. Only the United States, really, I think, is really what's going on. Because don't take it too personally, and I'm sure he doesn't. Biden's secret flights. They do them at night, because of where they're leaving and time of day. So they're not rousting the kids at 6 a.m. to fly them east. And secondly, because assholes like these will torment them during the day. So if they do them later at night, at least they can get them into cars and off to the Catholic Charities buildings and whoever their sponsor is before then. I mean, again, children and women. They're trying to breed us out of existence. They don't want us. Let's see. If only goes a little bit this week, next week. Turns out big increase with memory more than by 9% of the rest of the world seems to forget so easily. What is this?
By their grocery bills. What can you do better and faster?
Well, first of all, let's put this in perspective. Inflation rate month to month was just an inch, hardly at all.
You're not arguing that 8.3 is good news.
No, I'm not saying it is good news, but
he's talking year over year is 8.6. And they brought the climb down to almost zero. It's like 0.9%, and it was zero in July.
It was 8.2 or 8.2 before. I mean, it's not. I can make it sound like all of a sudden, my God, it went to 8.2%. It's
the highest inflation rate, Mr. President, in 40 years.
I got that, but guess what we are? We're in a position where for the last several months it hasn't spiked. It is just barely, it's been basically even. And in the meantime, we created all these jobs, and prices have gone up, but they've come down for energy. The fact is that we've created 10.
By the way, this is, again, this is all supply shock. Everything about our current inflation has to do with supply shock, and it's just the lurching of the economy back into gear after COVID. That's why even the big raises, like 75 basis points twice by the Fed, isn't having a huge impact, because there's a bunch of moderating factors, not the least of which is that anybody who used to hide their money in Russia or hide their money in China or hide their money in Deutsche Bank or the Bank of Cyprus is now either putting it in, and now they're putting it in treasuries, but we're putting it in stocks for a good long while, or in American real estate, or we're hiding it over here in banks. So there's a liquidity problem in the rest of the world, and then there's a storage problem of money that's not moving, foreign controlled US dollars that are sitting in banks going nowhere, because what are they going to trade it for? Rubles, yuan? It's ridiculous. And there's John Voight. So we'll cover John Voight. I don't even want to look at what the people are saying about John Voight. We'll go back, because it's too, like, Woody Allen announces his retirement. Yeah, we knew that was coming. He announced it months ago. Ma'am or mum? Is this what are we doing ma'ams and mums? The queen mum? Yes, ma'am. People are just saying mammy, ma'am. Okay. All right, good. All right, there we go. So there's that. Now, couple of things. One is our dear friend Francis Langham from Crooks and Liars and Pro Left podcast was nice enough to point out that the new NBC poll points out that Trump's favorability rating has cadavered essentially since Mar-a-Lago. And it's down to 34%. That is the base. 34% of previously registered voters, old people who've always voted Republican, who will just lock into that no matter what, and then maggots. And that's how you get it. It's not 34% of the country, because a big chunk are children or people who don't qualify to be in these kind of polls. And that kind of 34% of registered voters. It's meaningful to the upcoming election. It's meaningful to Republican control, and it's the tight walk that will have to be walked by Republican candidates going into the fall, especially as in the next 6 weeks, will be how do you side with them and stay away from them at the same time. This is a problem. 34%. New poll by NBC says just when he thinks he's going to run again, Trump's favorability rating sinks to a 16-month low at 34%. Turns out people don't like lying, fraud, grifting, bullying, stealing, incompetence, criminal activity after all. Those people do. But what Francis is pointing out is it's the same number. It's been the same number. He gets up in the 50s in favorability when he's talking about like normal issues like immigration and those kind of things. As Democrats continue to handle those issues, it cuts away at it, because even if he brings it up, asked and answered. So there you go. Hold on. Somebody's replying to the sorry, doubling inflation though too. Many families are feeling it. Start with emphasizing it's peaked and is coming down, or your plans are going to bring it down or something. Yeah, no. The question isn't that are we experiencing inflation? There's two elements of it. What's the cause? And the illusion is that it's monetary, that it's a flood of cash, that we printed money during the pandemic. We gave all these dumbass people money. These stupid Americans have too much money in their bank account, and they're buying shit and driving the cost up. Instead of people got money during the pandemic, yeah, but an equal amount lost almost their life savings, their entire business, and that all cadaver. There was just money to squeak by, and with that money you were using to squeak by, or what little savings you had, you were buying what little stuff there was to have. There was a slowdown in produce. There was certainly like the energy market cadavered, and so there were elements of where people did have money. The things they had to buy were not available. And so the people who have the stuff you have to buy can chase the highest price, especially when the people they're getting it from are doing the same thing, or the people that they're getting it from are paying twice as much for something because it just doesn't exist anymore. That oil's sitting there, but nobody's working at the refineries. So there's plenty of oil, but there's no gas. And so if you want gas for your truck, don't overuse it. And we got to sell it at a premium because we're going to be gone. Then we'll be empty. So, and then I'll have nothing to make more gas out of the oil with, right? 6.8 earthquake in Taiwan. Yes, that's a second one. I think that's the like a follow-on. It's a very big one, though. Rents are out of control everywhere. Yeah, they're starting to go down too, as well, though. But that was partly because of the work from home thing, because the rents in city centers, especially where people were like, I'm not going to have an office anymore. You're basically like, your business is now outsourcing the cost of an office to you. One of the other aspects that people don't recognize of working from home when your business transitions to that. On the one hand, is it better? For some people, sure. On the other hand, you now have to dedicate a section of your house to what used to be your office space. And that, trust me, tends to be an ever-expanding space. And so your boss, in many ways, is outsourcing their office space costs to your rent. So that's, and the people who rent places can now get a premium for places that have an extra room or better internet or, walking distance restaurants and that kind of stuff. That jacks that up. And then all the costs, they spread out over it. So everything goes up by, it chases the highest point in the market. You had to do that 30 years ago? Exactly. Anna says she likes working from home. I do too, to some degree. But I will say that there are certain jobs that you do in groups you'll need a space for that are better. And the idea of doing it via Zoom forever while you're sitting in a chair like some, future Wall-E character is not good. Pet rent, yeah. But that's how it did it. That's how it happened. Because effectively, the retail, and this is based largely on large investor groups who own retail property and rental properties, are seeing the retail properties fall apart. Nobody wants an office anymore. Retail space goes away during COVID, and start shifting the cost because they're losing money on this property to the places where people are that they have to be. You need a home, especially if you're going to work from home, right? So it becomes even more crucial. And then if you do have extra money and you're working from home and you've got to dedicate a space in your house, you're going to, that's why so many people moved. It's why people, it's why they upgraded their house during COVID. Upper class riot on the poor, violence really. I wouldn't call it that. Because a lot of people are just chasing whatever, they're in a realistic situation where you have limited material period in everything. It's always a fight between the floor and the ceiling. You're like the ever lowering ceiling and the ever rising floor are the zone people operate in, and what you'll tolerate and what you can afford, is that accordion in life. And if you can afford to expand, to raise the ceiling, you can do it two ways. You can expand the ceiling just for, and this is a real estate analogy, I hope you're okay with, where you're just doing this for aesthetics. You've got a house with a giant foyer. Or you're raising the ceilings by raising the floors. So you're building your house higher up where it's safer. You're building the same size house, but in a better area. Same size like life experience, but where there's better internet. You're raising the floor and the ceiling stays the same, but your experience in life is better. And then there's people who keep the floor where it is and just raise the ceiling. So it's all just like, that's what new money assholes do. They give themselves shiny fancy, but it's not better. And then they often lose it because these are the people who, you know, crater the real estate market amongst themselves. Now, here's one of the other ones. The Taliban released this guy, Mark Frericks, in a prisoner swap. We trade him for a heroin cultivator. I don't know. He's like a businessman. He would be the effective member of like the former Taliban's heroin cartel accountant. He was serving a life sentence. He served 17 years. He's been in jail for 17 years. And we traded him for this guy, Mark Frericks, and got him back. This is the last of the hostages taken by the Taliban. This guy was taken while Trump was in office. So remember that when he says no one was killed, not a shot was fired while he was president. No, they took hostages though. And that at one point, he kept saying that Biden left hostages in the country. When we left Afghanistan. Well, that was it was a hostage taken during Trump. During the time that he had a deal with the Taliban, which is even more hinky, and then Biden just got him out. So that's good news. There you go. And then where we go? Epic Times. Good Lord. Let's see where I'm in the wrong page. There we go. Yeah, so jumping around. So that's basically our trends for the day. There's Warnock. Andrea Mitchell, because people are... And then, of course, did they play Bohemian Rhapsody during the... Just people... Hard to believe the Joker is the prime minister. Justin Trudeau sings Bohemian Rhapsody in London hotel days before Queen's funeral. I mean, just randomly, or... Oh, they're sitting around a piano. I see. That's cool. Whatever. I've been known to do that. Does he sound all right? They're all singing it. He's all right. We can't have that. We can't have rabble rousing and people can't be enjoying themselves. I will not be ignored. We got a lot, like yesterday was a long show. So I'm going to stop at 10:30 today, which is in another 12 minutes or so. He says, and then Midwestern goodbye takes me to 11. It's just how it happens sometimes. And tonight's is going to be fairly long because I'm going to do the Trump rally in Ohio. I might jump through some stuff that people have already seen. I haven't watched it, but there you go. And then, and we'll do the John Voight interview as well as part of it. Let's see. I'm looking for something real quick. Let's see. There we go. This is kind of funny for all of us. I think we can just enjoy this. Hi, Raw Story. Get out of the way. MyPillow CEO Mike Lindell suffers big court loss in defamation lawsuit. He keeps trying to file stuff just to get it thrown out or whatever. Federal judge denied Mike Pillow his attempt to dismiss a defamation lawsuit brought by Smartmatic. Yeah, he tried this with the Dominion suit and fail. And yeah, Wilhelmina Wright was the U.S. District Judge. I mean, that name alone. Where are the Wilhelminas? Denied the motion to dismiss. He also filed a motion. MyPillow also filed a motion arguing Lindell's statements cannot be attributed to his company, but the judge denied that as well. Yeah. Why do you think that is? Because he fucking runs Lindell and Frank's speech and all these things on, there's never a time when he's talking where there isn't a Mike Pillow, code or deal going on. It's same thing with RAV, OAN, Newsmax. It's just fuck off. And he does ads on Fox. They're all based on, he's selling It's not just that he's making this shit up and he's driving it. He's making a living off of it. Former GOP rep, last gasp of a dying cult. Former GOP rep calls Trump's recent speech a QAnon fest. Agreed. Who said it? Barbara Comstock. Yeah. She was from Virginia, 2015, 2019. She's on CNN. It was humiliating. It was a QAnon fest. It was like playing this strange QAnon music. They were all sort of, bowing. I think Marjorie Greene was the one talking about the one true leader. The event featured a number of bizarre outings, such as one moment when the rally attendees raised their hands to the former president in an apparent show of loyalty. Yeah, it's the finger salute. I think it's the last gasp of a dying cult. J.D. Vance is really a shell of a person to be there, bowing and scraping to somebody who he rightfully attacked just a few years ago. Yep. It's funny because there's a lot of similarities of this asshole trying to be like Elvis over the years, like Trump trying to be desperately to be Elvis. And that after watching the Elvis movie, there's the scene at the end where it's him singing Unchained Melody. And his voice is just fucking awesome. Have you guys seen that? At the very least, if you haven't seen the last concert where Elvis is singing Unchained Melody, he's got like he was getting that point, and maybe it's over when the fat Elvis sings, but he was getting his opera voice in a lot of ways. He sounded like he was moving into the tenors. I'm not spoiling it. It's something that already happened. He was alive when it happened, and it's a song, right? He's just beautiful. It's just really, they can't appreciate Elvis. You don't think so? I will say, if you haven't seen the movie yet, there's a moment where Elvis, let me see if I can find the thing so I show you what to look for on here. Let's see. If I Can Dream. Yeah. So if this is from the 68 comeback special. If you haven't seen the 68 comeback special, they recreate it. Whoops, hold on, quit it. There's people there's all these reaction videos to it. This is from the movie, and right there, and then this is the real Elvis. And if you get a chance, watch this. And the whole story on this was that they wanted him to wear a sweater and do this kind of Christmas, nativity scene special ending to it. And he wanted to do something dealing with the killing of MLK and he decides to do this song instead. And apparently the Colonel hated it. Everybody was mad. And it's like watching him sing it, you're like, okay, I get it. Because a lot of his stuff I didn't get, like the Blue Hawaii stuff and all that. Or even the the rockabilly stuff was that didn't land. But in this particular case, that if you watch him sing that and you watch him sing Unchained Melody, you'll see where his fans are coming from. You'll see why they reacted the way they did. Why they, where it came from. He was getting his Baptist on. Absolutely. Elvis had a good voice, but he stole music and his manager was not in the country legally. Okay. They addressed that in the movie. And also not that he stole music, but that's what he grew up around in Memphis. We think of it as theft because we live in now and everybody can record an album on their laptop. This overlaying of swipe right morality over people in the past, especially those who did end up moving the ball forward in a positive sense in a time of conflict, or even before conflicts happen, is dickish, and I would argue cruel. It also points to the fact that most people who would talk like that, aren't they calling it presentism? Yeah, that makes sense. It makes it points out that people who would talk like that, who act like that or think like that, are the same kind of people who, during those times, would have simply joined in on the bigotry. Because it's about when you were raised and how you were raised, mixed with how you think as a person. So all things being equal, a lot of there's a lot of parallels between deep committed environmentalists and hardcore Christians, and the only difference is one went to Jesus camp and the other one grew up on the Upper West Side, or on a northern farm. Putting today's values and morals on people in the past is not moralizing. It's dismissive of the journey itself. And it also is based on the illusion that somehow people are born with what morality they have. Like, you're magic. You wouldn't have been immoral back then. You would have acted totally different. No, you wouldn't have. It's and like I said, it's beyond just kind of like silly and ignorant. There's a cruelty to it. You're being intentionally cruel. And I think this even goes to the argument about the founding fathers, where half the signers of the Declaration of Independence had slaves and the other half didn't. Some of them lived on the line of where they were trying to push to get rid of it. Some of them were afraid that if they released their slaves, somebody else would take them and be worse to them. So they were like, they're safer here. The rest of the world, slavery was still legal fucking everywhere. So if you turn someone loose, doesn't mean they're going to be loose. It means somebody else is going to grab them. And there's this debate going on about, like, how do we count the number of humans in the country? If you're here on purpose, you're a whole person. If you're here because somebody brought you, you should still count as, the South wanted you to count as a whole person, even though you don't get to vote. And they were like, no, that's not fair. They don't get to vote, so they don't count as a person as far as laws. You can't vote on their behalf. It was another form of the Electoral College. That's what the South was trying to do with their slaves. Like, I got 50 slaves, that means I have 51 votes. That's what that meant. And the mitigatory factor to keep this thing together, because they had a bigger fish to fry, they had to fight England. They were in a war with them, and they had to keep everybody together, was the 3/5 part. 3/5 was mitigatory for the time. It wasn't, we will always consider this human being standing in front of me to be 3/5 of a person. It was legal wrangling in a war zone. So the idea that you would have argued differently in that time is absurd. Slavery is legal in the U.S. It's called prison labor. No, it is not. That is not slavery. If you work in a prison, you get time back. Time is precious and irreplaceable. If you get sentenced to 5 years, but you work and you can get out in 3, you get 2 years of your life back. How many of you can buy time with your work? None of you. Secondly, you are in a trade. You're there for a specific reason. We don't just scoop people up. It's an absurdity. Quit it. If you're a firefighter or something like that, not only do you get, again, while you're in prison, your food, your clothing, your health care, your housing is taken care of during the time you're there, even though you committed a crime. You're learning a skill. Afterwards, you've done good time. You have a chance of getting employed afterwards. You get out earlier. You'll get the chances that you'll get a job as a firefighter and the like is much higher. Slaves had their culture taken from them. I mean, that's Janelle. That is, yeah, that's true. I mean, the word slave comes from Slav, and arguably that's what's happening in Ukraine right now. No, you don't. That's not how sentencing works. You get to leave your cell if you have a job. Otherwise, you stay in the cell. But you can also work off your time. That's good behavior. Again, it's different on federal and state levels too. State prisons, they might have, that's why the Joe Arpaios of the world are awful. And it's also why it's important to vote every fucking time and vote, like, recognize your local elections. Because we can vote for Congress people and senators and the president to make sure that the federal rules and federal penitentiaries and federal jails are humane. That doesn't mean the state ones aren't going to try to wiggle out of everything and be cruel and awful. Just for, private prisons aren't the problem. That's been a sales point for a very long time. If there's graft in a state like Illinois or Idaho, where the locals are trying to throw more people into the prison system to keep the money flowing to private prisons, those are singular issues. California has an under-incarceration problem, if anything, at this point. They don't have enough space, so they end up stacking people. They end up there's overcrowding in prisons because of the drawdown. And by the way, again, I personally think prisons, both federal and state, should be paid for by the taxpayer. And if you want to privatize services like food or the security system on the outside to a contractor for something, that's fine. But the people who work there should be state and federal workers or federal workers. And the facility itself should be managed and, for quality, safety, and function by the state. Just saying. What time are you on it tonight? I will be on at 3 o'clock. Yeah. Privatizing prisons has been one of the chief driving factors for mass incarceration. Not technically semantic romantic. I've heard that argument for a very long time too. The biggest reason why why America has more people in prison per capita than other countries, and again, it's per capita, is because our prisoners live a long time. Our serial murderers and serial rapists and mobsters and assassins and cartel people live and die of old age most of the time. Ever since, the biggest driver in incarceration and the stacking of it was the elimination of the death penalty in some ways, because the older ones, especially the age range of people in jail, expanded exponentially. Secondly, do inmates pay for their health care? No, they do not. The taxpayer does. So the main reason why we have more people incarcerated in the United States isn't even the crime bill. It's two particular things. VICAP and the fingerprint system, the federal fingerprint system, going online in between 1992, 93, and 1999. That's it. Because at that point, you could no longer rape and murder in Idaho and then rape and murder in South Dakota and nobody knew because you used a different name. Once that system went online, there was a huge spike in the people who commit multiple crimes being finally incarcerated for a long time and staying there. You couldn't state hop as a criminal anymore. That's right. That's it. Prisoners have to pay for their health care and services board when they get out of jail. No, they don't. Not jail, maybe, not prison. Yes, the overcrowding and horrendous conditions are driven by privatization. There's an argument about that semantic romantic. I know where you're going with that as well. The push against deprivatizing prisons, which happened relatively quickly, based on what the changes that could be made materially in the landscape. You couldn't just open we didn't build a bunch of federal and state prisons all of a sudden to replace the ones or take over, buy out the private ones in some of the bills that were passed fast enough to deal with the people who transition through. Corrupt judges are a problem, but mostly around white-collar crime. If we have a revolving door under-incarceration problem, it's with white-collar crime. When are you going to do a music stream? That's a good question. There are other problems such as lack of public defenders, pushing plea deals that are people ending up in jail and prison unnecessarily. Nature's Cowgirl, I got news for you. It's a very small... Our system errs on the innocent side more often than not. And that is why, pay attention, by the way, and you'll see this a bunch. Pay attention. The next news story you see about someone really awful, where they do something really awful, they hack somebody to pieces or they shoot somebody, but I mean, all school shooters, 15-year-olds aside, any adult you see do something awful in a news story, watch for it. They will have 9 or 10 other really awful things on their record. They didn't get to this age where they didn't have those things. Now, you can argue about school to prison pipeline and criminals making worse criminals and that kind of stuff, and that's an argument worth having. That's where rehabilitation has a function for society, if not the person itself, themselves when they're in there. That said, somebody who's already a serial rapist by the time they're 23, 24, or a murderer, or somebody who attempted murder and a robbery and then got let out because it was for good time and then murdered someone after the fact, that person didn't get ramrodded into the system. That person, over time, if anything, the system was punting them out over and over and over and over again. Is this TYT? Right. No. Because and again, this is a tactical issue. This isn't about, because I think, didn't Cenk finally come around to Biden's stance on defund the police? I think I've seen, I haven't watched any of them, but there's I up in my feed on YouTube, sometimes there comes a bunch of these right-wingers who are going, look who's finally come around to our side, kind of thing. And Cenk's face has been all over it for the last week. So did he say something? Is that what it was? Archie Bunker was racist and anti-Semitic, though I love Carol O'Connor. Yeah, he was written that way. The proper sentence would be Archie Bunker was a character who was racist and anti-Semitic. And he was used as an anti-Semitic and racist punching bag by the other characters. He was necessary to the struggle language. You cannot have Luke Skywalker without Darth Vader in a story. Is it Cenk? Yeah. He was written to show the absurdity of it all. Exactly. Yeah. I know you know, Ethan, but it's also an important distinction in the language. You guys know I gotta sign off because again, here we go. It's a Midwestern goodbye. But I will say, this is why, if you ever see, I'm gonna end with some hot takes and make everybody upset. This is why if you ever see an actor say, playing a villain is more fun, that person has never played a villain. That person has played a misunderstood, accidental, almost hero. If it had only been for this path, right? That's the storyline in their head. And also the idea that you have to find something in your character that you love, and that's how you have to portray it. Bullshit. Lots of people walk through every second of their life riddled with self-hate. So that's nonsense. You do not have to find something you love about your character to play them as a real character. It's silly. Secondly, if they say they love playing villains or that playing villains are fun, they've never played one. They played a cartoon villain, or they played a caricature of one, or fucking Dr. Evil, but slightly better. And this includes Heath Ledger's Joker, which I think is an amazing piece of acting couched in bullshit storytelling. And that's a long side story, but the story around the reason why people resonate to that is because he's meant to be the hero in the story, and they anesthetize all of his evil by having it either happen off screen or through someone else's hands. And the only person you see him kill in person is a bad guy. He kills one of the henchmen by slamming his head down on a pencil. Right? In the case of Harley Quinn, they had a domestic, like a violent, Heath Ledger, they had a history of domestic violence, and it was an awful toxic relationship. They made it cute for the other movies. But if, again, not a villain. Cartoon villains are not villains. The stuff that you would have to be capable of to do the kind of stuff that Joker is capable of is not something that you would find. It's like going, I love John Wayne Gacy. I want to imagine going as John Wayne Gacy for fucking Halloween or something. It's a great movie. It's enjoyable. But the moral and ethical context of the storytelling is bullshit, is paint by numbers. That's my take on it. You're not going to steer me away from it ever, ever. Just not going to happen. That said, if you ever play a villain as an actor, you should feel sick after. There you go. Yeah, Scarface is a great example of somebody, but way better than a Godfather take on it, because you could tell there was a sense of psychopathy and self-loathing to him that even punched through his ego. You can even tell that Al Pacino does not like Scarface as a human being. You know, like one of the best villains is Waingro in Heat. That's a true villain, and playing that character would be no fucking fun. And that's how you know you're playing a villain. If you're playing a villain, you're like, this is so much fun. You're not playing a villain. You're playing a caricature of something, and it's one version of it. But yeah, he did not end well, but he did not live well either. And the people that were around him ended horribly, and it was grotesque. He was terrible through and through. Amazing villain as a character. Untrustworthy. Terribly frightening. Psychotic. Vicious. All the things that a true villain is. Again, Thanos is a horrible, horrible, horrible being. And anybody who's like, oh, Thanos was right. What can you do? Fuck you. Silly. So, and by the way, nobody's going to chase me off off of Take Mountain when it comes to my hatred for villains and my support for heroes. Just not going to happen. Obviously, I'm a Batman fan too. But don't try. Don't even try. Because I've encountered enough awful people, genuinely awful people in my life, and my cousin, who you guys know is a marshal, and my uncle, who's FBI, have dealt with people who have done things to other human beings in such a horrible way that there is no coming back from that behavior. And so I have no illusions that, so I can't watch stuff like Hannibal and shows like that and go, it's just, I don't know, it's kind of fun and sexy, and I don't know. No, fuck them. Forget it. It's like when Negan shows up on The Walking Dead, he's got a rape farm. So forget it. I don't give a shit if he looks good in his jacket or you like the charm of the actor playing him. That's a fault of the actor. You should, every time when you're doing a character like that, I think, this is my personal belief, nobody else, you don't have to participate. This is me telling you who I am, what I think. That if you play a character like that, people should catch themselves regularly going, oh my God, this guy could totally get me into a van. Negan hates rape, though. No, he doesn't. He took everybody else's wives for himself, and if they tried to leave, he killed their guy. That's rape. If you can't leave, it's rape. Get out of here. No. No, 100% no. And Glenn was the only character I really liked on The Walking Dead, so I got a chip on my shoulder about it. There you go. But I'm telling you this, that there are people where if you recognize charm in an actor playing a villain, you should also be, it should shock yourself. Yeah, I played a bad guy on Grey's Anatomy. I played a con man on Grey's Anatomy, which is different too. So there's different, these are levels of awful. And he was a terrible person. Yeah. But he's not going to club you when your head's turned. So the point I'm trying to make is that look at the stuff that's happening in Bucha and Izium and recognize that the villains that we have in these kind of things, what they represent, in the same way that in old movies they used to show when a couple in an old Hitchcock film kissed, it means they had sex. You were supposed to interpret that we can only show you this because we're in pleasant company, but it means they did this. And if they did this, then they did that, right? That was the whole, that's how you get away with it. If you see an NC-17 sex scene, these people went further than any of us have ever gone in pleasant company, right? So the same thing is true of villains. And if you're spending too much time going cool outfit, he's so charming and all that kind of stuff, without the weight of, oh my God, I could be charmed into being murdered by this fuck, then that's the beat that's missing. There was again, I always do this. I was watching a thing about American Psycho and the making of the film, and it made me think about this too, because Patrick Bateman is awful. And his charm is so well crafted because it's a disgusting veneer. You can never drop it. Even when he's being charming, you're like, this guy's a monster all the time. And they don't let you get away from it. Part of the reason why people didn't want to make American Psycho was because he was such an evil and misogynistic character. I'm like, that's what he should be. That's those kind of people, when they exist, are that awful. They're not just shy of that awful, so you can go, oh, that would have been a shock scare. No, it should make you feel sickened by who they are. But there was a fascinating point in it where Willem Dafoe, who plays Kimball, the cop who's looking into the disappearance of the character Paul Allen. The director shot 3 versions of his performance on everything, and then intercut them for tension. One take where he really didn't think Patrick Bateman killed him. He didn't know what. He was oblivious to the fact that Bateman might be involved or whatever. Just kind of like, I'm just trying to answer some questions and figure out some stuff, but never thinks for a second that Bateman killed him. The second one is that maybe this is the guy. There was a take where he did it where maybe you think he did it. He's one of several suspects, but he could be one of them. Take like that. And then a take where you know he fucking did it. You know he's the killer. And every word you say, every question you ask is trying to get the killer to admit that it's him or box him in. And they shot all 3 of those versions. And then she intercut which one would make the most tension in each scene. And a lot of times, she would end the scene with the oblivious takes. And yet people thought, when you're watching it, that meant he was actually more on to Bale because Bale is sweating at that point. So you're taking physical cues from him. Dexter? Dexter's a vigilante character. So the idea that Dexter's a serial killer that kills serial killers isn't a serial killer. It's just a vigilante. They just dress it up that he thinks they deserve a certain point of torture. He's basically, if the Punisher had a job at a copy store. Yes, like a Perry Mason theme. True. That's so. Was it villains that believe what? Hold on, I have to wait till this scrolls up. Villains that believe they are right. That's sometimes that happens, William. There's the Thanos ones are the ones that believe they're right or they're righteous or they're doing it for a righteous cause. That's projection by most people who can't imagine what it's like to do something bad. I think that's from writers who've never been in a fist fight. That's just how that works. They just don't know how hate functions, not in real moment-to-moment exchanges. They just don't have the capacity. So they always assume that if I'm doing right, they must be doing that. It's projection. It's right what you know, weaponized back on itself. So that, other than that, I have no opinion. I'm going to let you guys think about that for a while, because I got to go. But I will see you guys this afternoon. And I love you guys. And glory to the heroes. And there will be no villain worship on my watch. Fuck that. No way. End of story. Full stop. And anybody who does it, I don't want to hear any moralizing from them. But it's a character. No, it isn't. It's your id and you want to watch it played out. And therefore, I can't trust you because you have a cruel streak that I don't get. There you go. Anybody who thinks cruelty is cute is messed up. CPT's on Saturday, but I will be in Chicago doing it this time. Also, we're going to set up a get-together in Chicago before the show. So working on that details now. I'll be in Chicago on Thursday. Thursday's show might be it should be on time. It should be okay because I should be in my hotel able to do it on Thursday at the regular time. So all travel working out. But anyways, love you guys. I will see you this afternoon. I gotta go. Okay, bye.